Hello. I'm Jason, this is Audrey. We're from Barnardo's. Barnardo's has this thing called a digital team. We still don't know what the word digital means. We've only been there about a year. One day we'll work it out. If any of you want to come and tell us after this little spiel what word digital means, we'd be really, really pleased to find out from you. We'll pay you a lot of money. So I'm going to get off stage. Audrey's going to do the first bit, and then we're going to do something weird where we do tag team or something like that. So.
You can stay standing. You don't have to sit down. Yeah. Okay, let's see if the down button is the next slide.
No.
No? Okay, must be up button. There we are. Okay, so quick show of hands. Who knows what this is? So this is from my childhood. This is gaming in the 80s, the early 80s. And for those of you who don't know, you have usually a moving lines screen for 5 minutes, and then you take a cassette out of the cassette deck, turn it over, put it back in, and then you wait for 5 more minutes, and maybe you'll get to play the game. So I'm actually really young for Barnardo's. I am significantly younger than the average member of staff. I am decades younger than our average trustee, and I'm many decades younger than our average volunteer. And yet, as young as I am, this is my childhood, and I like being reminded of this and that ear-piercing sound of dial-up networking. When I'm thinking about the breakneck speed of technological change just since the 80s. And sadly, the breakneck speed hasn't been there in organizations like ours and other large, old organizations. So, did you know that the NHS has 10% of the planet's supply of pages?
No pressure, NHS.
Yeah, it's not just the NHS. Barnardo's has a microfiche reader in its headquarters. To be fair, I've never seen anyone using it, but it's still there. And in my last role, less than 10 meters from where my desk was, there was a regularly used fax machine in a central government department. So the problem is, our task is to build products and services for today, and in Barnardo's, for children and young people. And they don't recognize any of my technology experience from the 80s. They've had a different experience, and they have a different relationship with technology. And as a result, they have a very different set of expectations. So my 3-year-old, she'll go into the living room and she'll try and swipe the television screen to change channel. And my 6-year-old, she knows that my mum hasn't figured out how to disable voice purchasing on her Alexa. So whenever she visits her gran, she'll say, "Alexa, order me some cookies," knowing that it will send my mum into a panic and she'll have to try and figure out how to undo it. But it's a very real challenge. How do we build organizations, products and services that are fit for the world of today and children and young people of today?
Is this me?
Yeah, sorry.
It says 5 at the bottom, she's right. We said every 5 slides. So the challenge is, as Audrey has rightly pointed out, there's all this brilliant opportunity, and we're just not using it. And Barnardo's is not special as an organisation. It is one of many brilliant bits of Britain that come together to form the fabric of society and provide services and products and things that make people's lives just work. And the NHS and local government and central government and other big service delivery organisations like Barnardo's are all in this game. And the risk is, thank you for moving me on very quickly, that we're a bit like this, and what we haven't woken up to, even after 150 years of being around, is that we're just going to die off and become completely irrelevant. So it's a really interesting thing, and it's something you should never say in front of big groups of people, but over the last 40 years, social mobility hasn't really improved in Britain. Everything we've thrown at the system, everything we've thrown at people, everything we've thrown at society and communities hasn't worked. We've still got children who are being, trafficked or abused. We've still got children who are feeling, more children than ever, who are feeling depressed. And we've got families who struggle to make ends meet, and we've got parts of the country where you guarantee you're never going to get a job, and all of those sorts of things. So we've got to do something about it. A lot of this gets pointed at digital, right? So we get blamed, the new people, the new shiny things, the new incomers get blamed, where have we heard this before, for all the things that are going wrong with society. It must be digital's fault, but it's way longer than that. We think it's the other way round. we think that this digital thing, whatever it is, this new ways of working, this organising things around people, this doing things in iterative, tiny chunks and then building towards big, audacious, hairy goals, and this doing things around actual data and actual evidence of actual things that are actually happening, not a policy that somebody thought up overnight, is actually the right thing to do. So this is the answer. We can just go home now. Our team is only made up of people who don't know the answers, and we think there are three really big assumptions that. I'll just go straight to this. We think there are three really big assumptions that we just have to accept as people who work in public service, in order that we can take ourselves out of. If you go back a slide, check you out. In order that we don't make these mistakes, which is what we've been making for the last however long it is. And the three assumptions are very straightforward. So we don't know what the problem is. We haven't got down to that nubbin of what is actually going wrong that we need to fix. We keep going, let's throw this shiny thing at it, or let's put the sticking plaster on the solution. We think, churning out the same local authority children's services that we've done for the last 20 years because we can measure those and we can tick boxes and we can get money for them, we think that's the right thing to do. We know it's not the right thing to do. We know we have to rearrange that entire conversation. So we know we don't know the problem. We don't have all the answers. And importantly, we don't have all the perspectives on the answers. So who are we? We don't know anything about with all due respect, we are nice, white, well-paid people living in London. Like, one of us isn't actually a white privileged male, which is a good start, but it's only a little bit of a start. There's no way we can possibly get out to actually what's happening in Bury right now in that estate. And then the third bit is we have no clue where the end is. So we can only say we can be the beginning of the journey. We have to take responsibility for that beginning of the journey. It's in our hands right now. But if we think we can keep doing that waterfall thing where you point at a roadmap and a diamond-shaped thing at the end in 2017 that says, or 2027 that says, we've done that, we're wrong, and that's because we've been doing that all the way through, and we've proved it's wrong, because you look at social housing and you look at children being trafficked and you go, well, that didn't work. So we've got ample proof that the way we've done things is wrong. Right, I'm going to stop talking now, and Audrey's going to do the actually important stuff, which is telling you what this actually means.
Okay. So, as you said, we assume that we don't know the problem, we don't know the user, we don't know their needs, and we don't know the solution. So with our assumptions, we have tried to bake them into our service design process. So with this one, we take a problem statement, and we don't assume that the brief is as it's written. We unpick the problem statement with questions like these. So this was a brief that we received recently, and we started with the assumption that we don't really know what the problem is here, and chances are the people who have given it to us also don't know what the problem is really. And so we ask these questions, and from questions like these, we learn that children are not the only people missing these appointments. There are lots of other adults involved. There are lots of other professionals, parents, carers involved. They're not always turning up to the appointments either. We realise that forgetfulness is not really the sole issue, and it may not even be the major factor in missed appointments. But of course, it's the only one that's very easily solved with the digital reminders tool. We learn that the opportunity cost of missed appointments actually is about much more than just missed appointments. It's also about cancelled appointments, last-minute cancellations especially, postponed appointments, because it comes to like missed travel time, the fact that the social worker hasn't been able to reschedule with another child. So a service or a tool that we design that just focuses on missed appointments, reminders specifically, would be missing out on solving the wider problem. So yes, what we do is we reformulate the problem statement into a hypothesis, a working hypothesis. And we talk to our business about it. We've taken the double diamond and we've tacked an extra diamond on the front that we're calling diagnose. And it's essentially a visual marker to the business that we are going to unpick the problem that you give us. So expect this, expect to have us questioning you. Our working hypothesis is really just our first stab at what we really think the problem space looks like. And we expect it to evolve as we go through the project. Okay, so we also assume, as we said, that we don't really know our users. I'm not the only person in this room, I'm sure, that underreports her drinking when asked by the GP. People don't always tell the truth. People don't always say what they want, say what they need, say what they mean what they say, want what they need. People are really, really confusing. So it's really important that we don't take them at face value. We spend a lot of time probing, but more importantly, observing. We like to be shown and not told by our service users and the people that we're designing for. We also like to dig around in the need a little bit. So as Henry Ford said, my customers, if you ask them, would say that they want faster horses. Actually, he reinterpreted this as a need to get from A to B more quickly. So he, in doing that, reframing the problem in that way, dramatically opened up the problem space. And that's why we spend so much time poking around the problem and user needs. And it's really, really important for us, observation again, actually seeing people interacting, learning about their context, because it doesn't take much time with a young person's smartphone to see that there are many, many apps on there for getting in touch with people, many, many with messaging capabilities. And so something that was designed just around SMS, it wouldn't be any good if we actually expected people to use it. We also learned that children and young people, quite like adults, they use these apps to compartmentalize their relationships. We spoke to one person, showed them the concept of Facebook Messenger communications with their social worker, and they were absolutely fine with it. The next person we spoke to was horrified at the idea, because for them it was their personal space, and that's where they spoke to their closest friends. So we know that we need to design to enable this type of compartmentalization, or at least to fit in that world. The second assumption, we don't have all of the answers, ideas, or perspectives. So this one, I think, is the one that fits most nicely, really dovetails with the kind of the theme of this conference. We assume that we don't have all of the perspectives, and by assuming that you don't have all of the perspectives, you are obliged to invite people into the process. The more angles you get on a problem or on a user's life, the more you can see of the problem space and the potential solution space. So we invite our users into the process. We invite our staff, our colleagues into the process, and subject matter experts. But we also invite people external to Barnardo's into the process. So, for example, Centrepoint will have insight that we'll never be able to get into the experience of homelessness among care leavers, including Barnardo's care leavers. It would be crazy for us to work on a project, really, without thinking about what they might know and how we might be able to work together on something like that. And similarly, Facebook, some of the work we do is with questioning teams and supporting them. There are tens of millions of groups set up for and by questioning teams, having discussions about the things that matter to them and supporting each other. So the researchers at Facebook have unparalleled insight into something that we are actively thinking about. Collaboration is going to be really, really key, and so is having the early opportunity to realize that we're not necessarily the right people to be solving the problem. And sometimes we might have to step back and be in support mode, and that's okay. And one of the other implications of that assumption is that sometimes we won't have the right answer first time. We actually assume we'll have the wrong answer first time. It's safer, we usually do. And so the response to that in terms of behaviors is prototyping and testing. So people are really, really bad at predicting the reactions of others and predicting their own reactions. It's a human thing rather than our service users. And as a result of that, we really need to provoke them and observe their reactions. This is an 18th century con. Some of you may have seen it. It's the Mechanical Turk. And essentially, it was sold as a robot, or in those days, an automaton that could play chess better than any human, when actually there was just a really small chess grandmaster in the mechanism pulling strings. For me, this is a really nice way of describing an IBM experiment in the 1980s, also called the Mechanical Turk, and now we talk about it as a kind of a modern approach to prototyping. So IBM had to decide whether or not they were going to invest tens of millions of dollars in developing speech-to-text technology. Their marketing department said, this is the next big thing, this is going to be a keyboard killer, this is the disruption we're looking for. And the executives were thinking, we really need that first mover advantage, let's just go all in. And somebody at some point said, no, why don't we just kind of take a breath and actually test the concept properly before we invest in it? So what they did was they set up 2 rooms, and in one room they had a screen and a microphone, and they brought users in and they said, speak into the microphone and you'll see your words magically appear on the screen. We want you to test this speech-to-text technology for us. And they did it, and it was right. The words magically appeared on the screen, but it was because there was someone in the next room touch typing while it was happening. So other than the users getting a bit hoarse after a while, everybody was still really positive about this. And they said, okay, well, let's take this simulation and scale it a little. Let's make it a bit more like the normal working environment. So they did it with 8 users at the same time, and they were all really astonished to learn that it makes for an unbearably noisy work environment. It just can't scale in that way. And even more importantly, it doesn't work for confidential or private material. So people would still have to have their keyboard. So, and you know, they were right, the keyboard is still here. It wasn't really the keyboard killer after all. And I really like this example because I've worked, in every organization I've worked, in fact, everyone's been way, way too keen to start piloting early. They're so eager, so thirsty for evidence of impact, for proof that their idea is a great one, that they rush into piloting rather than prototyping or testing. And the problem with this is, really, what is the chance that you're going to design a great implementation of your great idea first time? And if you don't, if you design a poor implementation of your good idea, what are you going to learn, really? You can't draw conclusions from that, certainly not conclusions about the strength of your idea. You might be lucky and it might work anyway, but you're not really doing that idea justice. And I've seen far too many babies thrown out with the bathwater because people haven't taken the time to test their concepts properly. Yes, so we start from the assumption that we've got it wrong first time. We construct little tests. We do hypothesis-driven design in the team. So we have lots and lots and lots of little tests. And it allows us to learn a lot from our failures really, really quickly. And we're allowed to fail because we fail early and we fail often and we fail quickly. And the important thing is we don't leave it too late in the day to learn that we were wrong. So most organizations realize that the idea is a bad one when actually they've incurred an awful lot of cost. And it costs lots to put it right. Costs of failures, costs of errors, costs of abandoning it. So when we have a mature service or product, it will have been tested with lots and lots of users. It will be robust because we'll have thrown the bad ideas away at a much earlier stage. And for us, that's just good risk management. The third assumption is that we don't really know how any of this is going to work out. And this is really important for us. So it's down to the pace of change. We know that technologies and needs and contexts are changing rapidly. And it means that we have to keep on iterating, and we use our tests to iterate our designs until they're awesome services. But we also know that they're not going to stay awesome, and they're going to need to continue evolving with the changes around them, because we're not, no service is an island. Is that a thing?
Like that.
So actually, our design process is much more like a diamond necklace than a double or a triple diamond. Our iterations go on and on and on. It's never really done. But at some point, it will either be decommissioned or completely reinvented. And so how do we do this? Well, we do this with atomic design. We build elements and components and patterns and templates. And we do that so that things are really easy to update and change. You can pull something out and slot it back in without breaking the rest of the service. We do it so that it's quick to update. We don't always build our own products and services, especially for internal services. Why build something yourself if you can rent something off the shelf? It's not really very good value for money. And also it means that we're not locking ourselves into something longer term. We also build for interoperability, so across our systems, across platforms, our own and our users, and our ambition is across the wider social care sector. But an important part of accepting this pace of change is realizing that we're in a world where augmented reality and virtual reality may become service reality, and where AI and chat interfaces are redesigning people's expectations of interactions. It's a world where machine learning and predictive analytics in particular are starting to become standard. And I know that we as a charity, and many of the other charities we talk to, we don't have the resources to build and maintain these capabilities for the longer term, never mind what's coming down the pipeline, on our own. So we only can collaborate. If we're going to be able to keep up this pace, we can only collaborate. Oh.
It's me,
It's you now.
So this is the challenge, and it's one that, with the Together We're Better theme, is a bit of a ask, request, suggestion, invitation to everyone here and anyone else that wants to get involved in it. In nice management consultancy terms, this is the size of our market. 1 in 5 children in Britain today either reports or is reported to have some sort of vulnerability. So that might be a child who's questioning their sexuality at school, or a child who is subject to abuse at home, or who is alcoholic, or who has committed a crime and is now in the system. And for these 2.3 million vulnerable children out of the 12 million children overall in the UK, we have a budget of about, you can move on if you want, about £11 billion to spend, not just Barnardo's, thank the Lord, but the care system in the UK has like £11 billion to spend on these children, which works out about that much money per vulnerable child per year, just under £5,000. Now, if we do this wrong, if we don't do what Audrey has outlined about being humble and being human and doing things in little steps, being honest about what we do and don't know, then we end up with... Collaborating. Thanks. Good heckle. Then we end up with pages, right? We end up being... I have no idea what the slides show at this stage. Pages. Then we end up with pages, right? We end up with technology first and people second. But if we know anything about what this digital thing is after a year, it's the other way up completely. Thank you. We know that this has to be about designing for people and then shoehorning the right technology in at the right time. Technology is now incredibly cheap. All of us know that. We do this for a living. It's really simple. You buy, you rent, you build, whatever. It doesn't cost much and it doesn't take very much time. The challenge is the culture change. The challenge is the people. The challenge is the work that you're trying to do. Getting to the right problem statement in the first place. I never want to be a dinosaur with a pager. This is what Barnardo's could become. This is what the NHS could become. This is what all of us could scarily become if we get this wrong. Slaves to technology, slaves to the next shiny thing, slaves to doing things the wrong way up. But if we do this from a human perspective, we have the opportunity to get this right. This is very blunt. If any of you are looking for a job, we really want you. Right, this is possibly the most exciting thing in the country right now. We get to fix children's social care, which means we get to fix childhoods. Changing childhood is pretty awesome. And we are desperate for brilliant people. It's very hard to find brilliant people who want to come and work on something as challenging as this and to stick with it for a bit without going, oh, brilliant, day rate. No. So if this looks like you, come and talk to us. If you know other people like this, come and talk to us. If you don't know anyone like this, but you think, oh my God, I really want to have a go at doing some of that, then, tweet us and tell us what training courses you need to go on that we'll pay for before you come and join us. All of that sort of stuff. And it's not just us. So Barnardo's is one of a small number of very big organisations doing this sort of thing. And it's us, and it's Save the Children, and it's Action for Children, and it's the NSPCC, and it's the NHS, and it's the local authorities, and it's central government and local government, and all these other brilliant organisations. And there's so much to do. And it's really exciting. And I think I've run out of hyperbole, so I'm going to stop talking.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Audrey. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Nick, what do you want to do about questions now or questions afterwards? How are we doing this?
Yeah. Do we have, well, first of all, thank you guys.
Thank you.
And thanks for pitching for your team as well.
Yeah, no brains.
I think, always carpe diem, seize the opportunity, lots of digital professionals in the room. Do we have any questions for Jason or Audrey? Would anyone like to get the ball rolling? We must have some questions. Hello, gentleman here, yes.
What's your response to recent reports saying that social media is increasing levels of anxiety amongst teenagers and teenage girls?
Social media increasing levels of anxiety amongst young people, particularly teenagers.
So this is a real minefield. And I don't know the answer. I don't think any of us know the answer to that. What's really interesting about the space we work in is that there's a very small amount of actual evidence. There's a lot of hunches, and there's a lot of name calling, and there's a lot of pointing at big evil corporations like Facebook and Google and Apple. And a lot of the rhetoric around this is, wouldn't it just be easier if we turned off the internet? And the answer is yes. Obviously, but that's not the right answer. It's a quick and easy answer. And I think we have a responsibility as the organisations who are responsible for so many children's lives to come together and work out, A, what does the evidence actually show? What other things are actually in this mix that we're probably ignoring because it's easy to shout about some simple stuff? And what can we do about it together? And this is one of those assumption things. We don't know where we're starting, let alone where we're getting to. And I think that's a really important thing for us to do at this stage.
Sorry, are you actively having conversations with the big social platforms? Do you have a seat at the table with those people to sort of influence those conversations?
That's a multi-part question.
Right.
Are we talking to them?
Yeah.
Yes. Are they excited about what we could do to help make this better? Yes. Are they also commercially minded? Yes. Do we have to pick our battles and walk very carefully down this road, all together, arm in arm, very carefully? Yes. So early days, I think, is the place for that.
Sorry, there was a question, Claudine, yeah?
Hi, it's Claudine from the National Deaf Children's Society.
Hooray.
Hey, can you give us an example of a new service or product that you've developed that's been shown to have a really good impact on vulnerable children?
Oh,
You can say not yet if you want.
not yet, no. So I joined 6 months ago. Most of the work we're doing at the moment is kind of laying the foundations for the work that we're doing. We've got lots of things that are quite advanced in their designs and being tested with people, but actually we are not at the stage where we're piloting things.
The corollary of which is that when we talk to small groups of children about what they need, and we synthesize their views, and we show them what the synthesis of those views look like in real life, they tend to go, yeah, that's a good idea, we should keep going on that direction, or they tell us to throw it away. But even those early tests, nowhere near as big a pilot, are definitely, we should do some work together. That would be fun.
Yeah, Lucy, yeah.
So you were talking a lot about collaboration, but you also mentioned a whole list of organisations that are working towards the same goals. I'm wondering how you manage that collaboration element across so many different organisations?
So it seems to be different ways and different projects. We partner with some on services. We do this thought leadership thing, going around talking to other organisations. I know, it's horrible, isn't it? I can't think of another term though. But talking about how we're working and sharing ideas. We are looking at how open we can be with our data, and we're looking at actively collaborating on data-related projects. Yeah, in lots of different ways we're doing it. It's really just about having the conversation, and inevitably when we have a conversation with anyone in the sector, there's an opportunity for us to collaborate on something they're doing or something that we're doing.
Very good. Sorry, Mark, that we're gonna move on now, but Jason and Audrey will be with us for the panel discussion later in the day. So just reflect, and we'll definitely give more space to the conversation. But really big hand for these guys. That was a fantastic start to the day.